Welcome back to the Blue Check Shops podcast. If you felt the squeeze of rising payroll, technician shortages, and inconsistent car count, today's episode is for you. At Technician Find, we prep a competitive hiring intelligence report for each new client so they can see exactly what they're up against locally. And we use it to help all of our shops craft offers and ads that technicians actually care about. But here's the twist. You can't win techs without the revenue to fund those competitive offers, and revenue comes from marketing that works. So I brought in today David Laird of Honest Mechanic Marketing. David grew up in a family shop, then spent 2 decades helping businesses grow. Today, he'll break down the must do marketing moves that consistently bring in cars so you can maintain a healthy bottom line and confidently pay and keep top talent. Stick around for simple, practical tips to boost effectiveness of your marketing and an invite to get hands on help at the end. David, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Chris. I really appreciate it.
Hey, it's great to get you here. So, one of the things that I just wanted to share with my listeners here is what's your origin story? I know that you grew up in the Bays and also spent a lot of time behind the keyboard. How does that dual perspective help your approach to marketing?
Yeah, like you mentioned, I grew up in my family-owned shop. My dad owned Laird Automotive, which now no longer exists now that he's retired, but owned Laird Automotive on the western slope of Colorado. I worked in that shop really from the time I was about 11 or 12 until even after my first summer back from college till I was 19. I started out sweeping floors and handing wrenches and holding the flashlight. I think all of us maybe got to start that way if we were lucky and got to do that with our dads.
Right.
And from there, I graduated to smaller jobs, oil changes, brake jobs, basically parts changing. And really, what I found with working in the family shop was that there were slow days, there were busy days, and the up and the down was incredibly stressful. I got to watch that firsthand with my dad, experience that firsthand as a very low level technician in the shop, and it was stressful when my dad was able to land a couple of fleet accounts and stay busy, life got a lot less stressful and he could systematize a few things and things got a lot better. And really, from the time I was about 15, 16 years old, I knew I wanted to help small businesses and eventually get back into the auto repair industry from a marketing standpoint so that I could stop the inconsistency and help stabilize things and lead to steady growth. So I've spent most of my adult life learning how to turn search volume and what people actually need into actual business that converts. So that's my background in a nutshell.
That's great. And that's one of the things that after we got connected by a mutual client that I was really impressed about was the way that you take marketing on an individual case by case basis. And it's not a cookie cutter solution. And
That's
that's
right.
one of the things that really stood out for me because I see so many platforms out there that promise everything, all things to all people. And you know what happens when you promise all things to all people? You become nothing to nobody. So
Right.
that's what the problem is. So I've really been impressed by your process and the results that you get. Let's start out by just making a real bold claim for shop owners. What works right now to drive car count in local markets, and what's dead weight?
That's a great question. For 2025, the winning formula that we've found is Google local service ads combined with Google search ads that also show up in the map section on Google. And then the real kicker is an actual large website with well-written content. Think 60 to 70 plus pages, not your traditional 8 to 10 page site. You want to highlight vehicle pages, service pages, and location pages. And that ideally that site will be optimized for SEO to get you found and for conversion rate to actually convert calls. And then the dead weight cookie cutter websites are a big one. You don't want to look like everybody else out there, or you'll get the results that everybody else gets out there and you become commoditized really quickly. And I think that that's a problem with the industry at large is the commoditization of auto repair because if you're in the industry, you know that the experience you provide at your shop is vastly different than the shop down the street even though you both fix cars. And all the customer knows if that's all you tell them on your website is that you fix cars, it's easy to become commoditized and price shopped. The other dead weight is people paying for generic social media content with stock photography, things like get your brake repair done this week. Have you checked your washer fluid recently? Is it time for an oil change? All of this stuff that we see all the time in the industry, people think it's great because you're posting more often, but social media should really be leveraged as a place to start conversations, and then conversations create customers. But nobody wants to talk with somebody that feels like they're pitching to them all the time.
So that's so true. I hope everybody's listening to this. David just dropped at least three gold nuggets here. And I just want to circle back around on some of these because it's so relevant. I'm going to work in reverse order here, though. Starting
Yeah.
conversations. I love that idea about starting conversations. And it's so funny because when I go in and I look at websites, we've worked with over 200 shops now across the United States. And one of the first things that we do, our team does when we're getting the ads together and we're starting up campaigns for hiring, is we always look at the website. We always look at their online presence. And the second I land on a website, I can always tell, oh, yeah, that's one of those big vendors. And we're not going to throw anybody under the bus on this call, but you
Sure.
can always tell when you get one of those websites because they look exactly the same. Everything's in the same place. The only thing that changes are the colors based upon your logo. And
Yeah.
I always think, yep, well, here's another one of those. So your point is really well taken there. And the other point about the 60 pages on a website, I can already tell a lot of listeners just fell out of their seat right there when they heard that 60 pages on a website. But it's so true. There's a concept in marketing that is having congruence between your ads and the landing page.
Yeah.
And if you say one thing in your ads, you say one thing in your social, and then people click and then they land on a page that doesn't have anything about what you've been talking about, they bounce, they leave. And any money, any effort, any time that you've spent to gather that traffic and to direct that traffic into your website to get customers is gone. So it's so, so important. And when I have this conversation with my clients, they say, oh my gosh, are you serious? We have to have separate landing pages for all the makes and all the models and all the services that we offer. And I try to tell them, you don't have to do it all at once. But if you are driving traffic and you're paying money, especially for Google clicks, you should optimize that. You know, David, I know we've had conversations about optimizing your opportunities. And in particular, if you spend money to get people to click and then you don't have somebody answer the phone, or the person that answers
Right.
the phone doesn't know what they're doing. They don't know enough to actually get the customer to bring their vehicle in, and get that started. Then that basically is you're ruining your conversions as well. So, that's
Absolutely.
another little area. And I know, David, you understand all this. And when you're building out a marketing campaign, it's important to understand these things because they're all involved in building those campaigns. And the last thing I wanted to say about that is when we look at content on social media, definitely stock images, stock photography, and hey, it's wiper blade season, and that those kind of things. Yeah, it's probably a little better than not having any content at all. But
Sure.
the way that I always think about these things, because I think from a hiring and a recruiting perspective, is there's so much overlap in marketing and hiring. And if you're looking for technicians, if you're looking for service advisors, they are going to look at your website. They're also going to look at your social media and stock images on your website, stock images on your social media. I can tell you, I've tested thousands and thousands of ads. I know that stock images just don't get the clicks. They don't get the interest that a real, genuine image will get. And then I
Right.
get pushback. Oh, well, I don't want to hire somebody to come out and take pictures and everything. The best images that we see that get the best clicks and the best applications are just realistic stories about the shop, realistic pictures, just having somebody walk through the shop with their phone and snapping pictures of people smiling or interesting jobs that they're working on or exotic vehicles. Those kind of things get lots of clicks. So your point is really well taken about not having generic stock imagery on the page. And it's not only for your potential customers, but it's also for your potential employees and team members.
There's so much crossover, and your techs, your potential techs and hires, your service writers see through it just like your customers do. They want to know who you are. People do business with people they know, like, and trust, but there's a people element to that that people often forget. Your content can presumably build trust and make people like you if it's professional and polished looking on Facebook, but people forget about that people element in front of that statement too often.
Absolutely. So, what are the most expensive marketing mistakes you see shops making in 2025, and why are they so darn tempting?
Yeah. In marketing, my big focus is always return on investment. And so when I see shops making these mistakes, it's always tough for me. But the first one, when you get started, it's really easy to rely on word of mouth and on your network. And a lot of times that'll keep you busy for quite a while. You'll even pick up some referrals, you do good work, and it's great, but you're not capturing email addresses or you're not putting processes in place to maximize what we can all probably agree is your best and cheapest marketing avenue for word of mouth. If you put processes around it and systematize it, can allow you to get even more benefit out of the word of mouth. And I've got some great examples for maximizing word of mouth and what I mean by that that we can get to later if we have some time. The next one I see a lot is paying or overpaying for a website that looks like everybody else's. It's not uncommon for people to spend five, six, seven, $10,000 on a generic website or more. And I would say that most shop owners believe that they are an above average tech or diagnostician or service writer or however they got in there. Or they at least believe that they have above average or great techs working for them. You know that average doesn't cut it for your customers. You wouldn't want an average tech as your lead tech in your shop. You should not want something average, generic, or cookie cutter on the front end, making your first impression with people before they even get a chance to talk to you. And it costs people way more money than they realize by having those generic websites that we talked about earlier. Your website should do two jobs and should do both of them well. It should get you found and it should help customers want to call you, to feel comfortable to call you and schedule that appointment. And then the
Yeah.
last one is the social media content. There are companies out there that are charging shop owners anywhere between $500 and $1,500 a month to create these generic social media posts. I've looked at return on investment on those with the shops that we work with and with the shops that we haven't worked with. And
It was
some,
horrifying.
yeah, some people are absolutely mortified when they look back at, we've been doing this for 5 years and they have no calls, no customers, no anything to attribute to it. And all of this is really tempting because it seems like what everybody else is doing in the industry. The secret, the kind of the quiet part out loud here is that everybody else in the industry is struggling with car count too. They're
Yeah,
struggling with attracting top talent too. And so I know that you see this with hiring. A shop owner will create an ad based off of what they've seen from a shop that they like or consider a competitor even,
exactly.
and they'll create a generic hiring ad. And I'm sure that they're getting generic results with those the same way that if you create a generic website, you're going to get generic results.
So true.
That's what I see as the biggest wastes of money and the reason why so many shops jump on board,
Yeah.
why it's so easy to make those mistakes.
Fascinating. It's such great stuff. There's that old saying that says, if you do what everybody else does, you get what everybody else has, as we mentioned earlier, the iteration on that. And you're just spot on. I always ask new clients or any shop owners that I get on the phone with or GMs, are you advertising now? And if they say yes, I say, okay, how did you create your ad? Did you draft it from scratch? Did you grab a template from your business coach or did you copy your competitors? And a lot of times it's, oh, I just grabbed one from my competitors. And it's funny because there is this psychological phenomenon where you think that just because something is out there, it's working. And you don't
Right.
realize that just because you grab something out there from one of your competitors, it doesn't mean it's working.
Right.
And that's what we see all the time. We also see this, I get this question all the time. Hey, Chris, why don't I just use ChatGPT to write an ad? And I said, you can do that. And I've had people do it. He owns a shop. And I said, I'll tell you what, you use ChatGPT to write an ad, and then I'll write an ad. And then we'll feed them into custom GPT because I have an automotive technician GPT that I trained on hundreds and hundreds of conversations and our ads and all the things that we know that works in this industry. I said, we'll feed them both in and we'll ask, okay, which one would you apply to? And it was so funny. The results are just, I mean, hands down. His name is Jason Perkins, this GPT. He says, you know what? The first ad looks like it's corporate. It doesn't have anything for me. It doesn't speak to me. And it's all about what the shop wants. And I said, look at the other one. The other one goes, you know what? This speaks to me. This speaks to my pains, my fears, my frustrations, my hopes, my aspirations. This grabs my attention and it's not like anything else that I've seen. And
Abs-
that's really what you want to do. online, with marketing, with recruiting, you need to be different. You need to speak to that individual. You need to join a conversation that's already going on in their head and show them how they can experience a transformation. So I love that David has that marketing background because he understands that, and it's so,
Yeah.
so important. And this actually segues nicely into the next question I had for you, David. What I'd like to do is get your perspective on this because what we do, as you know, and a lot of our viewers know, is we only work with independent shops. And basically everything that we do is to position our independent shop clients against the dealers, against the national chains, against these other shops that have been purchased by private equity firms, or they're in the process of roll-ups, and they're run like big corporate entities. And so we have a lot of experience positioning our independent shops against other shops like that. And I'm just curious, from a marketing perspective, how do you address that topic? Are there market factors like dealers, how much dealers can spend on ads, like labor rates, like anything that would make you take a look at it and say, we need to do this differently if we're working with independents versus if we're working with dealers?
Yeah, absolutely. I get a lot of feedback from shops when I talk to them, almost kind of defeated when we first start talking about trying to get into the Google Ads space where they think, oh, we don't have the budget to compete with the dealers or with the big boys.
Sure.
And the truth is, dealers spend big money on marketing every month, not just in ads, but in referral bonuses, big agency retainers, etc. That's part of why the rates are so high. And so my advice for shops in that space is lean into what makes you unique. Dealers take the shotgun approach to marketing because they expect a lot of people to fall out of the funnel. And for independents, you need to grab the rifle. You need to get laser focused on who your ideal client is and what they need, and you need to speak to those needs and not try the shotgun approach with the big budget because you can't compete on budget. Where you
No,
can compete is on depth of content, specificity of content, and highlighting the things that really make you stand out. Highlighting the services where you have actual margins, your brake repairs, your AC jobs, your vehicles that you specialize in that you know your techs are constantly beating book time on. All of that stuff really should be where we're focusing our marketing dollars and our marketing energy on. We can't outspend the dealers, but we can outsmart them almost every time. Big budgets make for lazy marketers typically.
I love
So
that. There's so much overlap. And this is almost exactly the same conversation I have with clients on the recruiting side is, you know what, you don't necessarily have to, I mean, you have to be competitive with salary and benefits, but you don't necessarily have to outgun the dealer down the street on salary and benefits if you can communicate what makes you unique. Because I have talked to hundreds of technicians at this point, and what I hear over and over again is always some combination of, I feel like I've been treated like a number. I feel like there are three, four, five layers between me and any decision makers. My ideas just go off into the void and nobody takes me seriously. And I feel like a hired gun. I don't get any respect. And these are all easily addressed if you are an independent shop and you are just conscious of the culture that you are fostering within your team, within your business. So there are always ways to communicate how you are different and how you are unique. All it requires is just a different thinking process. So to hear your thinking process about this and the framework to use, David, is awesome because I know it works on the recruiting side because we've done it thousands of times. So when you go in and you audit a shop and you look at what their online presence looks like, you look at their traffic, you look at all these things, what are two or three signals that tell you, you know what, there's some hidden demand in here that we could really take advantage of that they're not capturing?
yeah, so the first thing we do is we start every conversation with somebody who's interested in working with us by doing a search volume report. I want to see what people are searching, the exact words that they're using, and how often they're searching for it every month. And that really tells us where the opportunity is. And right off the bat, when I'm looking at a website and I see that it's missing specific pages for vehicle makes, for example, I know that there's search volume. Typically, in most markets we research, there's at least 10 searches a month for people who are looking for Toyota mechanic, Subaru mechanic, Mercedes mechanic. There's at least 10, sometimes as many as 90 or 100 searches a month for vehicle specific pages. If you don't have those, Google doesn't know to rank you for them and you're missing out. Same thing, a lot of shops focus on the city that they're in, but they forget the smaller suburbs or the neighboring cities or areas around them. And all of those locations get search volume as well. And people are willing to drive an extra 5 minutes in the car, maybe not an extra hour or 45 minutes, but an extra 5 to 15 minutes in the car to find a good mechanic with good reputation and good pricing. I'm sure your listeners can attest to that there are a lot of shops, but there are a lot less good shops out there. There are a lot of people who say that they're great, but their reviews will prove otherwise. And so that's a big one for us. The other thing is that a lot of shops still are not using Google local service ads. They're kind of new. Most people don't really know what that is. They haven't taken the time to look into it. And if you do look into it, it shows that they might not be available in your area. Trust me, they are. And when they're properly managed, I've seen them absolutely transform a business in as little as 60 to 90 days. And they're incredible. The last thing that really stands out for us when we're doing an audit is when you're running Google search ads, and a lot of people are, they're running ads to just the homepage, to generic content, and there's a complete lack of alignment between what the searcher was looking for and what they found when they found you. So if we see any of those three things, or all of them in many shops' cases, we know that we can really step in and provide big value fast.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You said something that really I think is relevant right now, the local service ads. I know we've had conversations in the past about really using those in conjunction with other Google products and optimizing that whole mix. But I can tell you by personal experience, I was actually on the account of one of my clients. And on his Google business account, he started running the local service ads, which, by the way, I get that. I'm telling everybody they need to get local search ads for their shop. I'm getting a lot of pushback because they're saying, oh, they're telling me that they're not available. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, David, about, yeah, well, they are available. You just have to do a little bit of digging. The other thing about this is since I was on this client's account, I can see these inquiries coming in. I mean, three, four, five a day are just coming in like
Yep.
clockwork from these local service ads. So I know that they're a really good source of leads. And it's one of those things where it's pretty immediate. They're just flowing. So this opportunity, like every other marketing opportunity, probably isn't going to last forever. I would
Sure.
highly recommend that if you do have questions about that, get in touch with David because he can point you in the right direction.
We can typically have Google local service ads set up within 14 days of an onboarding call, and we regularly see 60 to 100 leads per month out of local service ads. And the important distinction for any of your listeners here, Google local service ads, what makes them so killer is that they are pay per lead instead of pay per click. Really important distinction. You pay when the phone rings, and you can rank the lead quality. And for leads that, for people who are calling because they're looking for hiring, or for people who are calling because you have AC repair mentioned and they're looking for home AC repair instead of car AC repair,
Mhm.
things that we see relatively often, Google credits those leads back to you. We're typically seeing an average of about $20 to $25 cost per leads right now in most markets, and a close rate for a booked appointment from those leads at about 30 to 35%. Pretty incredible numbers. The opportunity will not be there forever, but for now, there's a big competitive advantage to getting in there.
Fantastic. All right, so let's dive a little deeper into your unique mechanism. So you had talked about being unique. So in terms of your method and your process, what is unique about it versus, just a generic system or a cookie cutter system that you see out there? I've talked with lots and lots of folks who claim to specialize in this space. And when you look under the hood, they have a very cookie cutter methodology. And it's pretty much the same methodology that you would use if you're, soliciting chiropractors or dentists or plumbers. And it isn't really unique to our space and our industry. So if you were to say, hey, this is our unique mechanism for SEO, ads, social, websites, everything that we do, give us a little bit of detail on that.
Yeah, so we have a system. I hope it's anything but generic for anybody out there that takes the time to have a conversation with us. It's we call it the shop success system, and it really combines everything that we've talked about building a great website, from custom written content and designs to really search volume driven, data driven pages on your website that help it get found, and content that's written to speak to your ideal customers so that it actually converts when it gets found. We combine that website with ongoing SEO to help make sure that we're capturing more competitive keywords and more question-based keywords. And we're generating helpful content for customers who need their car repaired or who may be trying to diagnose something on their own. I think most shop owners can attest that the reason why they spend all this money on tools and equipment and diagnostic scan tools is because it's hard to fix the modern vehicle in your driveway these days. A lot of people are looking for help, and then they'll get far into a project and realize they need to bring it to the shop anyway. First place they're going to go is the place that was helping them anyway, free of
Mhm.
charge, by having great articles on the site. So that's the ongoing SEO piece. And then really optimized Google search and maps ads and those Google local service ads. Like I said, all of that is tailored to the services that you offer that really have higher margins. We're not big into loss leader marketing here. You're not going to see anything for a $29 oil change or anything like that come out of us. I believe that there's enough search volume and enough opportunity for most shops that you don't have to lead with the traditional loss leader marketing approach to get them in the door. Most shops that we talk to really think that there's some magic silver bullet when it comes to marketing. It's going to be a really clever ad or a flashy video or something like that. And they can be fun and memorable and build brand awareness, and they're great. But honestly, the real value comes from alignment with your ideal customer, and then really a big enough platform in terms of the website and your ads to reach that ideal person when they're looking for you and when they need you the most. And so that's really what sets us apart, is that it's a very tailored approach in the way that we're managing all of these platforms that you might see managed other places. We kind of add our own little twist to that even. We have what we call our market lock guarantee, where we won't work with any of your competitors. The whole point of the marketing that we do is to help you stand out from the crowd. And I really believe that I can't help you stand out from the crowd and help your competitors stand out from the crowd. So as long as you're working with us, we make sure that you own and dominate the markets that you have with us. And then the other thing, we don't build on proprietary systems. Everything that we build, from your website to the content to the ads platforms, everything that we have, you own when it's set up. There's not going to be any gatekeeping. The ad account will be yours, it wouldn't be ours. We want to make sure that we earn your business. And the last thing that we do differently than most agencies is we're not going to lock you into a long-term contract. I really believe that it's our responsibility in the marketing agency space to earn your business. If we can't earn your business or explain why you're spending the money we're asking you to spend, or if we can't educate you and provide value, we haven't earned your money, we don't deserve it. So those are the things that really make us stand out from what other agencies are doing in this space. And something obviously I'm really passionate about and believe a lot in. So,
Yeah,
um,
it definitely shows. And I just wanted to say something about a couple of those points as well,
sure.
because they're so important. One is the no long-term contracts. When I started and founded Technician Find, I knew right from the beginning I didn't want to lock somebody into a 60-day, 180-day, or a year-long contract. If they're not happy, what sense does that make? It's good for the company. It's not good for anybody else. I saw so many recruiters out there that were doing that. They say, okay, well, you've got a 60-day minimum contract or a 90-day minimum contract. And if you're not able to get the job done in 30 days or 60 days, then why would you handcuff somebody to you and nobody's happy? And that just didn't make sense to me. So I really appreciate it when businesses operate that way. And the old, you don't build on rented land. That
Absolutely.
is so important. I don't know if everybody listening or everybody viewing understands the importance of that. I just wanted to get into that a little bit deeper because I
Yeah.
have seen situations where I've worked with shops The shop will have a vendor that's running their Google Ads for them, and they're running the Google Ads through the vendor's Google Ads account, and the shop doesn't have access to it. And that's a problem for lots of different reasons, namely that you can't get in easily and look around and see what's going on. Also, if you ever decide that you're going to leave this vendor, then all of your campaign history and everything that you've got in there basically goes away. You don't have any access to it, and it's just a hassle. And I also see this happen with when you are basically building out websites on different platforms. The same thing can happen. And it's a big issue when you don't own your content. And when it comes time to, for whatever reason, either make a change or make a pivot or do other things, it's just a bad situation. And the other thing that happens is platforms come and go. Right now we use Facebook for a lot of the stuff that we do, but who knows if Facebook's going to be around? There are a lot of people that were coming up. There are a lot of services that were coming up. Anybody remember MySpace and lots of different other services and companies that were coming up that just didn't make it? And when you have all of your data with a platform, then it puts you in a lot of risk. One more thing I wanted to say about that, it's a little tangential, but it's relevant, is the other thing that we see a lot is one of a shop's employees ended up setting up their platform. So the admin for the shop on Facebook is someone that was an admin or a service advisor years and years ago that set up the Facebook account, and nobody else has access but this former employee. And it becomes a big problem because now basically you can't get into your own account because the only person who has admin access is this employee that's left. So it's just really important to think through these things in the beginning and to have somebody that can help you think through these things and get you set up the right way so you don't get into a gotcha situation down the road.
Sure. Yep.
All right. I want to start bringing this thing into our landing. So one of the things I want to do here is just dial into if a shop really needs cars in the next 30 to 60 days, what would be your recommendation? What's a three-step Monday morning play that they could do? And I think you've touched on some of these ideas already, but what would be your hot take on that?
Yeah, absolutely. Update your Google business profile. It's the platform that Google gives you. It's free and you can do it for no budget. Just add your services, add photos, update your business hours and your holiday hours. Focus on generating reviews and get some questions and answers up there, even if you have to add the question and then add the answer yourself. A lot of times people have the same questions, but nobody wants to be the first person to ask. So if you can seed the pot a little bit, that'll get the ball rolling for people. The other thing is make sure this sounds so remedial here, but check your homepage, check your forms, check your phone numbers, make sure everything's working. When somebody tries to contact you, make sure that they can from as many platforms as you can. The last thing you want to do is go through the effort, pay for the leads, generate the lead, and then have them not be able to get through to you. And along the same lines, answer the phones when the phone does ring, please. That one's big. And then if you haven't yet, start an LSA account. And if you have started an LSA account, understand that this is going to get a lot more competitive. There are best practices to follow. So make sure you're in there tightening up the LSA account, managing the leads coming through the platform, and staying ahead of it so that you don't lose a great lead source.
Yeah, great feedback. And I did want to circle back around real quick to your processes around word of mouth, because I know a lot of the shops I work with, they have very long histories, deep roots in the community, and they get a lot of their business from word of mouth, but they just don't really think about it. They may be supporting local sports teams. They may be doing things in the community. They have great, happy customers, sometimes three, sometimes four. I had one shop that had four generations of customers that came in, but they didn't have a formal process around getting referrals from those happy customers. What would you tell them?
Yeah. So first thing is actually ask for referrals. Not do you know anybody, but who do you know? It's a very important reframe. If you say, do you know anybody? A lot of times people will say, nobody's really coming to mind right now,
Mhm.
but who do you know triggers a different part of the brain that'll oftentimes go, actually, my sister-in-law's been having a hard time with her vehicle. I'm going to give her a call real quick. Do you have a second to give her an estimate? and you can generate estimates and appointments right there with an already happy customer. Same thing for putting an actual referral program in place, especially for general maintenance and stuff like that, where if they come in for oil changes, you give them a discount on the fifth one. And you give them a tangible card, something that they can keep, or you get an oil change sticker and mark it up on the window so that it's clear to you and the customer. There's no dispute about when that time comes, and you're
Mhm.
happy to do it. Loyalty is built, not bought. But people don't mind when you buy a little bit of loyalty too. They feel like there's a lot of marketing out there to attract new customers, but there's less marketing out there to keep your current customers and keep them happy. Even though that's not directly asking them for new business, they will be so happy with what you're doing to take care of them as current customers that they will refer you more often to their network as well. And then the last piece is local neighborhood groups on Facebook right now are really, really big. Word of mouth has gotten to be more digital over the last 10 years or so. The younger generations are not talking to their neighbors over the fence nearly as often as we used to in days past. And what they're doing instead is going on and posting anonymously in a Facebook group about, hey, who do you guys know or who's the best mechanic in the area? I've got a problem with this. And if you're active in those neighborhood Facebook groups and you're sharing tips and sharing advice, people are going to see that. And your customers are going to see you in there and they're going to tag you in those posts and say, oh, yeah, ABC Automotive is excellent. Go ahead and take your vehicle into them and tell them I sent you. It'll be great. So, those are really the biggest levers that I see work for relatively low cost.
That's fantastic information. I hope everybody's taking lots of notes. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I really wanted to bring David in because, well, for a couple of reasons. One is when we run competitive hiring analysis reports and intelligence reports, and we see that a shop is significantly below where they need to be on salary in order to attract top talent, it's always good to have some options for them. The situation is the boss, but if you really need to increase that car count, you really need to increase your marketing and get things moving. I like to have a good, solid resource that does that and that works in the industry. So I'm really excited that I met David, and we've been working together here for a little bit now. And so I wanted to bring him out and introduce him to everybody if you do need help in this area. One of the things that I wanted to leave everybody with is, David, can you let everybody know how to reach you and what they can expect if they do reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So reach me through the website is a great way at honestmechanicmarketing.com/schedule. That'll allow you to book time directly on my personal calendar, and it'll allow us to get started on a discovery call where we're going to go over that search volume report that I talked about earlier. And we're going to put together a roadmap for you of exactly where the opportunity is in your market and for your shop and outline our approach to what you do. Typically, we have a two-call process because it really is a tailored marketing program for you. It's not cookie cutter. It's not something that I could just pull off a shelf and say, here, do this. It works for everybody because we don't live in that world anymore. So, honestmechanicmarketing.com/schedule is a great way to book time directly on my calendar. If you have questions and you want to reach out to me directly, my email's david@honestmechanicmarketing.com. All this goes directly to me. I believe conversations build customers for our clients and for us. I'm looking forward to having as many conversations as I can to help build this industry up that I got to grow up in and get to spend so much time in now.
Yeah. And so thank you so much, David, for being on the podcast. And thank you so much for contributing in the school community. So you can
Yeah.
also find David in the Technician Find school community. He is an active contributor, contributing just lots of wisdom. So we'll hope to see you all there. And have a great afternoon, David. Thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.